everyone, hope you're doing well. Today is turbo review day. As you can see, we are not in my garage. We are out at Squaw Pass right now. I thought I'd take you guys to a nice scenic area in order to do this review, treat you guys proper. So anyways, the Pumaspeed X58 EVO Gen2 hybrid turbo, or big turbo, however you want to call it. I've got some pros and some cons here for this turbo. Now I can't really, compare it to any other turbos because I've never been in a Fiesta with a different kind of turbo. I've never, done anything with any other turbos. So this is just my experience, what I like about this turbo, what I don't like about this turbo, what I've seen from other turbos on YouTube and all that. So yeah, we're just going to get right into it. So one of the biggest pros on this thing is we got no torque steer. Absolutely none. This car, it hits boost around 4,000, 4,500 RPM, and it pulls all the way to redline. And there's zero torque steer. There's also zero wheel spin. Well, not zero. There's a little bit towards the top, but it's not so much that it's like, oh, I can't put the power down. It's, you can hear the tires slipping a little bit and trying to grab, but it's nothing that you can't accommodate just by, keeping your foot planted and not lifting. What's that rule? Never lift. So anyways, this car is great with the turbo, the big turbo. It's great for spirited driving. Anything above 4,000 RPM, it's great. City driving, it's really not that bad, but I do find myself having to downshift. Instead of downshifting one gear, if I'm on the highway and I'm in fifth gear, and I'm like, oh, I want to overtake this person, I have to generally down gear or downshift into fourth or third. Sorry. If I'm in sixth, I have to downshift to fourth, and then that way I'm in peak boost and I'm able to zip around someone. With the stock turbo, it was like I only had to downshift once, but big problem with that was once you hit about 5,000 RPM, the turbo just kind of sputtered out. This turbo, like I said, it pulls all the way up to redline, which is 6,800, but I'm always shifting at 65, just because it's a better visual cue on the dash. Another positive for this is the turbo itself is of great build quality. From what I've seen, I mean, it's a fully cast housing and everything. They got upgraded bearings in there and a bunch of upgraded stuff. So it's definitely of good quality. I know a lot of people love their 47Rs, and Pumaspeed has been making some pretty good turbos for a while now. So that's a big positive, especially when you're looking at a turbo. You want something of good quality. You don't want it to break after a little while. So another good thing about this turbo is it's good for 450 brake horsepower. One thing I love about you guys over in the UK is when you measure your horsepower numbers, you actually measure real world horsepower numbers. Over here, when we say, 400 horsepower, that's at the crank. That's not with any leaching systems like AC or power steering or anything like that. The way that you guys measure your power numbers is definitely better than the way that we measure ours. So yeah, that turbo is great for 450, or it's good for 450 horsepower. So when I go to upgrade the engine, which, I'd like to do, but I don't know when, that's like $8,000 for me to get a forged, fully built engine. And I would just buy it as a crate engine. I wouldn't try and assemble all the components myself. It's actually less expensive to buy a crate engine than it is to buy all the components yourself and assemble everything yourself. So I'm probably just going to go that route. Now for a few negatives on this. One of the negatives is turbo lag. There is turbo lag. The car does pull at 3,000 RPMs, but it's not enough to where you're like, oh wow, this thing's hauling. It's just, you feel it. You're like, oh, okay, I feel like I'm being pushed in the seat a little bit. But again, once it hits like that 4,500, 5,000 RPM mark, you're sucked in the seat and you're not going anywhere. So it's, you know, that's what's to be expected. Another con with this is the turbo kit from Pumaspeed. It comes with a silicone coupler, a 90-degree elbow. Other than that, it doesn't really come with much. So they give you a 90-degree silicone coupler. That is for your intake, your crossover pipe to hook up to, and that goes into the inlet side of the turbo. And then you also have the oil lines that they give you as well. Or, not oil lines, coolant lines. So you get steel braided coolant lines, which are great quality. They give you crush washers. They give you the bolts with the hole in them. So I mean, you get all that stuff. But one thing I saw, and this was after I had already received my turbo, I went and saw a video from Tune Plus, and he was showing his S280 kit that he got, and I was like, oh man, like this guy got everything. He got new hardware, he got a couple of gaskets. Like, I was like, I didn't get any of that, and these two turbos are about the same price. So, you know, if you're looking at an S280, and you don't want to have to try and source parts and try and find everything that you need, I would say, you know, get the S280 over the Pumaspeed. And I mean, they're both considered, you know, big turbos. Have a Pumaspeed, and then have to source all of your stuff, or do you want to, you know, have a full kit that comes with everything that's required? I actually went out, I bought a turbo gasket kit, which came with the fire rings for the manifold, and the fire rings for the downpipe. It also included, what was it? The oil line gasket. There's an oil line gasket that goes on the bottom of the turbo. Oh no, sorry. It goes into the sump for the engine. And then there's also, it comes with the O-rings for the oil lines that go into the top of the engine, and into the turbo. So I had to find that, and I found out that that kit isn't made anymore. I just got lucky and was able to find it at an O'Reilly's Auto Parts. I called around to Napa Advanced. And I mean, you could probably go without replacing all those gaskets. It generally depends on how many miles you have on your car, but you know, I'm one of those people. I'm in there, I might as well replace it anyways. Like, when I put the tubular manifold on, I replaced the exhaust manifold gasket, because it's like, I'm there, might as well. Now for the tubular manifold, I would highly recommend one of these, regardless. You know, if you're going hybrid turbo, big turbo, you're there, you might as well just take it off anyways. The thing about it is, it definitely helps with the spooling in the car. Alright, so when it comes to that tubular manifold, I highly recommend just getting one of them. They're not very cheap. You can have your existing manifold ported, but if you're really looking for that quicker spool, I highly recommend the tubular manifold, because from 4,500 RPMs all the way up to redline, it goes. Like, sometimes I don't even expect it, and I'm hitting the limiter, and I gotta shift real quick.
Those guys are crazy.
Nah, they're just having fun. With the tubular manifold, I do highly recommend it. And then, I mean, even if you're running like a hybrid turbo, I'd say, you know, get bigger injectors on it too. They're kind of a pain to install. At least the one when I did mine, like, they were seized in there. But after 36,000 miles, when I replaced mine, tips of them were just covered in carbon. So I definitely would recommend just replacing your injectors anyways. You know, you'll get better fueling, and if you want to run like, you know, E30 or something like that, the injectors will be better for that. So I would recommend doing those. The install on them, it's not too bad. You just got to make sure you don't break anything. So there are videos out there on how to install the injectors, how to pull them out of the fuel rail and all that. They're just, the difficult part is they tend to get stuck in there. So, and I've got the Bosch uprated fuel injectors and the double sealed ones from Pumaspeed. They're $750. It sounds like a lot of money, but if you take into consideration the fact that they actually had to mill and machine these injectors to put another seal in there, because there can be a compression leak if it's just a single seal on there, which is why they run 2 seals. So you don't want compression going by your fuel injectors. That's not good. So for $750, I got them. I was like, you know what? It's one of those things, like, I'm increasing the power in this car. I might as well replace them. I don't know when the average time when you should be replacing your fuel injectors is, but, you know, I'm one of those people. It's like, you might as well replace it before the time comes instead of, you know, when the time is due, because at that point there's a chance of running misfires and having other issues that it's like, oh man, now I got to deal with this, or oh, I got to deal with that. So, you know, you might as well just, if you're putting the time and money into your car, just put the better injectors in. It's definitely worth it. So another thing that I wanted to show you guys is the actual dyno graph here. So peak horsepower, peak torque, around 5,500 RPM. But again, I mean, this car pulls all the way to red line. And this is on a dyno Mustang, sorry, said that backwards. Verbal dyslexia. A Mustang dyno. This was at Speedy Roo Motorsports here in Colorado. Yeah, so, you know, I don't know if these numbers are good or bad. I know that Mustangs tend to read a little lower than other dynos, which, hey, I'd rather someone tell me that my horsepower number is lower than higher, because, you know, I don't like being lied to. So, but yeah, I mean, that's my dyno right there. So, you know, I guess the big question is for you, you know, out there, if you're trying to decide if you want to go big turbo or hybrid turbo, it's all in what you want. You know, do you want to pull away from someone immediately, or do you want them to get a little cocky and arrogant, think that they're winning, and then you pull away from them in the end? So it's you know, it's ultimately up to you guys. I like this turbo, even though there were some trials and tribulations along the way. It's a good turbo. It does what it does. After about 1,000 miles, actually I'm close to 1,200 now, the power, when it comes on, the first couple of times, like, it was like, oh, it's coming on. It shocked me. It made me giggle. All sorts of fun stuff. But after a while, you know, after this 1,200 miles now, it comes on and it still puts a smile on my face, but I'm not as surprised by it. The power of this thing I have definitely gotten used to in 1,200 miles. Now, I've done city driving, I've done highway driving, I've done, you know, canyon driving up here. I've done pretty much all of it. I've sat in traffic, bump and go, you know, 1 2 1 2. That's all I do, you know, when I'm driving to and from work in this thing. And it runs great. My fuel economy is no worse than what it was when I was just at stage 3 with all the bolt-ons. In fact, like, I filled up this morning before I came up here, and I was at my average MPG was 38 miles to the gallon. That's highway driving, that's sitting in bump and go traffic. And I mean, I am not light on the throttle. I have a lead foot, so I find myself pinning it a lot. So I think even pinning it like that, and I'm still getting 38 miles to the gallon. I mean, you can't beat that. I mean, that's pretty much it. Those are my positives, my negatives, my personal thoughts on this turbo. If I were to buy this turbo again, or buy a big turbo again, I would probably get the S280, only because it is a full entire kit. Aside from that, this turbo's great. Like, my complaints about it are very minimal. Like, I'm not like, oh man, this was the worst purchase I've ever done, because it's not. And it was a great purchase. It was something that I enjoyed, you know, working on this car. I had fun with it. I would get frustrated when I was working on this car, only because, you know, I'd come home on a Friday night right after work, which, you know, I'd be working on cars all day at a transmission shop, and, you know, I'd come home, I'd start hammering away on this. You know, it took me, I think I started at like 7 o'clock, and it took me until 12:30 in the morning to get the turbo, the exhaust manifold, the engine oil drains, all that stuff pulled. Now, I mean, you're probably like, oh man, 5 hours to pull that. I was taking my time with it. I wasn't trying to rush it. But again, you know, when I'd go to install it, that's where I was getting frustrated, only because, you know, I spend all day working on a car, and then I come home, I start working on a car. You know, my nerves are already fried, especially when I'm working on something that's just a heaping pile of, you know, poop, and it just drove me nuts. You know, I'd be working on this, I'd get frustrated by something so small and insignificant, I'd have to like take a 5-minute break, and then I'd start hammering away. But all in all, I mean, I had fun with it. Like, I enjoyed it. It was fun working on it, and then being able to go out and drive it, you know, and seeing the fruits of my labor, it just made it all the better. So yeah, I highly recommend it. Whether you're doing a hybrid turbo or a big turbo, you're going to enjoy it. Either way, you're not going to hate it. If you're going to do a turbo upgrade, do a turbo upgrade. If you want, you know, lots of power, you know, go big turbo. If you want, you know, to spool real quick and have wheel spin and do burnouts at 30 miles an hour, then get a hybrid turbo. When it comes to the build, do whatever you're looking at. Do whatever suits you, you know. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, you know, if you go hybrid turbo and they say, oh, you should have gone big turbo, or you go big turbo and someone says, oh, you should have gone hybrid turbo. It's your car. Do what you want. Screw everybody else. So, I mean, those are pretty much the pros and the cons of the X58 EVO. Those are things that I've dealt with, you know, things that I've gone through when I went through the, like, when I was trying to decide, like, you know, do I want wheel spin or do I not want wheel spin? Do I want to, you know, pull real hard in the mid-range, or do I want to pull real hard up at the high end? Anyways, those are my thoughts. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to comment below. I appreciate all you guys out there watching my videos. Definitely means a lot. I hope this video helps you guys decide if you want to go hybrid turbo or if you want to go big turbo. You know, the one thing that I really can recommend is getting that quick spool manifold, whether you're running hybrid or big turbo. If there's anything that you want to know, let me know. You know, again, I really appreciate you guys for liking and subscribing everything. So it definitely, like, this morning I woke up and I was kind of like, oh man, I don't want to get up, but I was like, I need to get up. You know, there are people out there that want to know about this stuff. So yeah, I appreciate you guys for actually, like, taking in my 2 cents. Also, one more thing I want to let you guys know. I do kind of have a little bit of, like, I do a little bit of sim racing. I'm not real good at it, but, you know, I try and practice, but, you know, sometimes it's real difficult to get into the mood for it. But I have a Assetto Corsa, and I've actually downloaded a 330 brake horsepower Fiesta ST with a big turbo on it. So if you guys, you know, let me know down in the comments if you guys want to see some sim videos. I'm gonna put some up, but, you know, if that's something you guys want to see, then I for sure will do it for you. Especially with winter coming around the corner. I mean, we're mid-September right now. I'm not gonna be doing much driving with this car during the winter. Just being in Colorado, we do get snow and the roads get pretty sloppy, and I don't like driving it in the snow. You know, especially with having a big turbo on it, I really don't want to drive it. You know, I'd like to protect my investment. I've spent a lot of time, money, and energy on this car. I want to protect it as best as I can. So, probably during the winter months, I'll be focusing on that sim racing stuff. You know, maybe even put out a couple of videos of me adjusting the suspension, which is something that I've been meaning to do because I'd like to put some bigger wheels and tires on this thing, you know, get some more traction on the ground. But yeah, let me know, you guys. I do appreciate you all out there. I hope you stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one.